Straight all day.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, techniques, mindsets, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to measure consistency. How do you actually know when you're being consistent? How can you make sure you are sticking to your consistencies? Is there a way to look at this in such a way that you can say, all right, I've been sticking to my consistencies because this happened, this happened, this happened, I'm doing this, I got this outcome, etc., etc. Well, of course the answer is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this episode. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how to do it and how you can start doing it in your own life, on your own, right now, and also how you can get help doing it as well. So I'll get to that in a second. First, let me tell everybody that I send out a daily motivation text every single day that is completely free of charge to everyone who's in my texting community. If you want to get that daily motivation text, all you got to do is be in my texting community. You can get into it completely for free. All you got to do is text me. Here's my number. My number is 305-384-6894. Once you text me there, you'll be in my community, and every day, either depending on what time it is today, I usually send them in the morning Eastern time, but if it's in the afternoon or evening right now, all you got to do is just wait till the next one, which will come out tomorrow. But you can also text me. That is my number. So you are texting with me when you text that number. So when you get a response, that is from me. And when you get the daily motivation text, those are from me. You can actually reply to those texts, and you may even get a response from me. So just hit me at that number again, 305-384-6894 for the daily motivation text message. Now, this topic, measuring consistency, actually, Raquel, who is in my texting community, is the one who asked me this question. So shout out to Raquel if she's listening, but she's the one who sparked the idea for this episode, because even though I talk about consistency all the time, I realized when Raquel asked me the question, she said, Dre, how do I actually measure being consistent? Because maybe something that she and I have been texting about was about her wanting to be more consistent in her work and whatever she was doing. And I was offer my feedback, and then she asked the question, well, how do I measure consistency? And I said, damn, you know what? I hadn't actually done an episode on that. Let me do an episode on it so I have a full context answer, not just a text message answer, but a full context answer that anyone can apply. And that's what today's episode is going to be. So any of you who enjoy what you get out of today's episode, you can thank Raquel for that. So let's get right into it. How to measure consistency. Point number one, you need clear systems and the results produced by those systems. All right, this is the first way that you measure how consistent you are. Do you have a system? First of all, do you have a system, period? Is your system clear? In other words, how do you know if your system is clear? You know your system is clear when you can show it to or explain it to another person who does not know your work nowhere near close as well as you know it, but they can understand. Something is clear, folks, when you can explain it to a person who knows nothing that you know, but they can understand what you're saying. The clearer the system, the easier the explanation. I'll repeat that. The more clear the system, the more simple the explanation, and the more easily anyone can understand it. And as a matter of fact, the more clear your system is, the less intelligent the person hearing you explain it needs to be to understand it. See, if a person needs to have a college degree and a master's and a PhD to understand your process, then your system may be a little bit complex. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it if your system is complex, but it just means it's complex. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but we're just talking about levels of complexity. If someone only needs an associate's degree, then your system is a little bit simpler. Someone only needs a high school diploma, it's a little bit simpler. Someone doesn't need to have gone to school ever in life, but they can understand your system, then that system's pretty clean. And usually those are the kind of systems that can scale and anyone can plug into it. And that system usually is more fail-safe simply because there's a wider range of people who can actually step into that system, plug into it, and actually execute on it and still produce the same result. A good example of this, if you aren't thinking of it already, is McDonald's. You don't need a college degree to work at McDonald's. You don't need a PhD. You don't even need a high school diploma to work at McDonald's. All you need is the ability to understand the words that somebody's saying to you. I was going to say understand English, but McDonald's is all over the world. You don't even have to understand English. You just got to understand the native language enough that you can, make the burgers and the fries. That's it. And nowadays they're putting computerized systems in McDonald's where you make your order on a big computer screen and there's not even a human there that you got to talk to get your food. So McDonald's has a clean system. Anyone can understand it. You don't have to be smart to understand it, and anyone could explain it if they know it. Clear systems will produce results. You look at the results produced by your system, if you have a system, and this is one way you can measure your consistency. When you have systems in place, those systems are designed theoretically to produce specific measurable results on a consistent basis. All you need to do then is look at the results being produced by the system, or record those results, and then you make or the lack of results, and make your necessary adjustments. All right, what results am I getting from going to the gym this many times and doing this workout program? Okay, here are the results that I'm getting. All right, do you need to make adjustments? Are you getting what you want? Are you getting more, less, the same? All right, what adjustments need to be made? You will know you are being consistent when you are executing on a system, and if that system is working, it will be producing consistent results that you actually want and that you and anyone else can clearly see. Episode 1569, the topic was systems and processes work, so why don't you use them? Again, that's episode 1569. If you have not listened to that episode, anytime you hear me miss an episode on this show, you scroll down to the show notes. There should be a link to any episode that I mentioned, but if there is not, all you got to do is go to workonyourgamepodcast.com, and every episode ever that I have ever put out of this show is all on one page. All you got to do is go to that grouping. I got them grouped by hundreds. All you got to do is find that grouping, scroll down, find the episode that I mentioned, and listen to it right there on that page. Again, that is workonyourgamepodcast.com, all spelled out. Another episode where we talked about systems is episode 1838, how to build your business ecosystem. You want a system in place for your business, things that can work over and over and over again. Listen to episode 1838. So the number one way, or the first way, these are not in any particular order, I would say today's episode, to measure your consistency is having a clear system. Is your system clear? Can you explain it to a fifth grader and they would understand it? Yes or no? And is your system producing results that you actually want? Yes or no? All right, these are yes or no questions. If you need to think about the answer, then the answer is no. So that's where you start. Number two, consistent inputs. And the topic once again today is how to measure your consistency. Are your inputs consistent? In other words, do you do the same things every single time? Do you do them the same way every time? Episode 2013, here was the title. The same things, the same way, every time. Consistent inputs, this is what it means. The same things, the same way, every time. If you want to measure your consistency, ask yourself the question, am I doing the same things, the same way, every time? This is, again, a very clear yes or no question. If you need to think about the answer is no. Let me say it again. If you need to think about the answer is no. Your morning routine. All right, who listening to me right now has a morning routine? All right, do you do the same things the same way every time? If the answer is yes, and you could lay out your morning routine with your eyes closed without looking at anything because you can see it because you do it every single day, then you do have a consistent input when it comes to your morning routine. If you need to think about it, or you do different stuff every day, or you did something yesterday, then you did something different the day before, you're going to do something different tomorrow, you did something different today, then you do not have you don't have consistent inputs when it comes to this specific area, your morning routine. But any area of your life, when you want to measure your consistency, ask yourself, am I doing the same things the same way every time? Now, how many times have I said that phrase? If you ever hear anyone talk about, or you have yourself talked about any kind of routine, a morning routine, an exercise routine, a work routine, a business routine, here's how we handle new customers routine, here's how we handle onboarding routine, here's how we handle a new order that comes in routine. That is what this point is discussing right here. The inputs need to be consistent. Things are done the same way every single time. You can measure your consistency. There's another way of measuring your consistency. So basically, I'm giving you a few different options here, and ideally you use them all for measuring consistency. You can measure your consistency by simply looking at how consistently you are doing the exact things that are designed to produce a specific result. So if you know doing ABC produces a certain result that you want, ask yourself, how often are you doing A, B, and C? I mean, that should be a very simple question. And many of you, right now, you might be feeling a little bit bit sheepish by me pointing this out. You know that if you do A, B, and C, you are going to get a specific result. The challenge is you're just not doing A, B, and C. You are not consistent in your inputs. It's not that you don't have the information, that you don't know what's going to produce a result. It's just you're not doing it. Why is this? I can't answer that question, but you can. As a matter of fact, you must answer that question. A lot of the text messages that I get in my text community, I told you my number earlier, 305-384-6894. When I ask people, what's your biggest challenge? Often, one of the most oft answers that I receive is, I'm not consistent, Dre. I just need to be more consistent in what I'm doing. Very rarely do I have anyone text me and say, Dre, I just don't know what to do. I don't get too many of those these days, and which makes sense because these days, all of us have more information than we even need. Very rarely do I get anybody say, Dre, I want to do these things, but I don't have any money. I don't get that. I don't hear that much. Very rarely do I hear anyone say, well, Dre, I want to do this stuff, but I don't have the right people around me. I get a few of those, but not too many. And what's the other one that people use? I don't have enough time. I get a little bit of time things. Most of the time, though, the thing that I get from people is I'm just not consistent. They are admitting to me that they're not consistent in what they're doing. So it's not that you don't know what to do. It's just you're not doing it. So you have a different challenge. So that's why you might want to read my book, The Third Day, which is about showing up and delivering even when you don't feel like it. Because if your actions and your consistency is controlled by when you feel like being consistent, then of course you're going to be inconsistent. And I think many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, I'm talking to and about you right now. If you feel like I am, yes, I am. If you do not have a system, actually, let me back up here. Same things the same way every time. All right, here I am saying it again. You can measure your consistency again by looking at how often you are doing things consistently. How often are you doing the exact same stuff? Now, many of you might say, well, I don't want to do the exact same stuff every single day, Dre. I'm not a robot. I don't want to get into this monotonous same thing, same way every time. That's boring, it's monotonous, it's tedious. I don't want to get into the same stuff, doing the same stuff the same way every time, Dre. I want some variety in my life. I want some difference in my life. I want to have some flavor in my life, some pizzazz in my life. I say, okay, all right, you want what you want. I'm not here to argue with you about what you want. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you want consistent results, you must be consistent in your inputs. Because everyone here understands the law of reciprocity. If you don't, you understand the law of karma. All right, they're pretty much the same thing. What you give is what you get. If you want results consistently, then you probably need to do work consistently. Does anybody have a logical, rational retort to what I just said? That if you want consistent results, you must give consistent inputs. Does anyone here have an argument against that? That you can be inconsistent in what you put in, but you're going to be consistent in what you get. All right, anybody ever had that happen in life? You're inconsistent in showing up to work, but you get a paycheck, the same amount of money every time? I don't think so. I don't think there are too many people who've gotten away with that. And if you do, you ain't going to get away with it for long. Eventually, somebody's going to catch you. Whatever you want to get out, you got to put in. Now, is that a new concept to anybody who's listening to me right now? Okay, so we all understand the concept of routines. We all understand the concept of reciprocity. What you give is what you get. We all understand the law of karma. What you put out is what you get back. Okay, so since everybody understands that, how about we start employing it and using it? Look at how consistently you are doing the same things and getting a certain result. In layman's terms, are you working your system? So we already covered whether you have a system or not. That was in point number one. If you don't have a system, then I can help you out with getting one. You need one. No matter how you get the help, you need to get a system. Once you have a system, are you actually employing your system? Are you working your system? If you don't have a system, the first thing you need to do is read my book, The Third Day. I'll give you a free copy of the book. Just cover the shipping. Go to thirddaybook.com. The link is down below in the description. Secondly, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and join one of my coaching programs, either my group program, which is the Bulletproof Mastermind, or hop on a call with me for my one-on-one program, which is the Third Day Mastermind. But you need a system in place. If you don't have a system and you're relying on talent and memory and just hoping that the wind blows in a favorable direction every single day, you are setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. Now, if you decide to do that and you run into disappointment and failure, that's fine. It's your life. You can do as you wish. Just don't say nobody told you. Everybody clear? All right. Anybody need me to repeat anything I just said? If you do, hit the rewind button on wherever you're listening to this and listen to it again. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to measure your consistency? How do you know when you're being consistent? Here's the third thing you got to do. You need duplicatable processes. All right, we just kind of talked about this. These are AKA systems. All right, duplicatable process is also known as a system. It's also known as a routine. All right, these are all the same thing. All right, duplicatable process, a system, and a routine. You can use these three phrases interchangeably. All right, everybody got that? This goes hand in hand with the aforementioned point when I mention systems. When you have a duplicatable process / system, I will assume the only reason you will want to duplicate it is because it's producing the result that you actually want. If you go to the gym all the time, I'm assuming it's because something you're doing in the gym is producing a result that you actually want, right? All right, nobody just keeps doing something that's not giving them what they want for it, and then they just keep doing it even though you're not getting the result that you want. Again, that would make you insane according to the definition of insanity, right? You're doing the same things and expecting something different, then you're not getting what you want, but you think it's going to all of a sudden produce what you want, even though you keep doing the same thing. I don't think anybody does that. Nobody with control of their mental faculties does that, right? So if you have a duplicatable process, it's because it's working for you. You produce a result and you keep doing it over and over again. So for those of you who are not getting a result, either you don't have a process or you're not working your process. If you are able to produce a result, but don't know how you did it, that means you're not going to be consistent in your outputs, meaning you might randomly win every once in a while, i.e. get your outcome once in a while, but since you don't know how you did it, you don't know the system or the process behind how you got that outcome, you can't do it over and over again. You can't do it at will. You can't do it on call, and nor can you teach it to anybody else. All right, you have a problem as well. And it actually might be a bigger problem for you because you've tasted the success, yet you can't do it again. So now you're really frustrated because you know what it feels like to win, but you don't know how to do it over and over again. You might be better off never winning in the first place. So at least you're not looking at it like, damn, I know what it felt like to be up there. It might be better to never even know. But I'm just throwing that out there. But the whole point is you want a duplicatable process that you understand, that you can explain, and that you can do over and over again at will. You can do it with your eyes closed, AKA a routine. A routine is a thing you do with your eyes closed. It's based in habit. 85% of the things that we do in life are habitual. So if you listen to everything I just said, human beings, we are wired for habits. We are wired for routines. We are wired for processes and systems. We are wired to do things over and over and over and over again. We are creatures of habit. Have you heard that phrase before? All right, since you know that we're creatures of habit, here's my question to you. Why do you keep doing things randomly? I want to let that question sit there. I want to let that question linger. Since you know, and if you didn't know, now you know, human beings are creatures of habit. Since you know you're a creature of habit, why would you go against your own nature and do things randomly? If a creature is a creature of habit, you know what you should do? You should set up their environment to where they can have as many habits working in their favor as possible. Not doing things randomly because it goes against your nature. The nature of a human being is habit, routine, process, systems. This is why the most successful people that you know, I don't even have to know you to know that this is true. The most successful people you know are people who have processes, systems, routines, and habits working in their favor to produce desirable outcomes over and over and over again. The same things, the same way, every time. I don't even have to know you to know that that's true. Now, my question to you is, why aren't you doing it? Or if you are doing it in some areas, why are you not doing it in other areas? What is stopping you from doing it in other areas? Because this is your nature as a human being. So you might as well work with nature. You try to work against nature, I would not recommend that. Bruce Lee said you got to become one with nature. You got to become the wind. You got to become the water. Water becomes the cup. You got to become nothing. Go with the flow of how nature works. How nature works as a human, I'll tell you one more time, you are a creature of habit. Get habits in place because this is what you're wired to do. So if you don't know your process or your system or how you produce a result, deconstruct the system to figure out how you actually did it. If you want some help with this, join my Bulletproof Mastermind. I just helped a member of the mastermind do this a couple weeks ago. We were on a call and he was talking about how he works in the finance industry. He was talking about how he wanted to eventually remove himself from certain processes in his business to where he can have somebody else do it and he can do more of the oversight of what his business does. So I asked him, okay, all right, you know that you want to do that. So the parts that you do right now, how close are you or how far away are you from having somebody else do those things? And he said, well, what I got to do is I got to lay out my entire process. So he understood this part. So I started asking him, okay, what is the process? And he started talking through the process, and I started asking him questions. I would interrupt him while he was talking through the process. Well, what about this part? What about this? Wait, you made this jump from here to here. I don't understand how you get from point A to point B. And he said, oh, that's a good question, Dre. And we started laying out, verbally, he was laying out what his process was. And I would ask him questions that, because he was skipping over certain parts because of his level of expertise, there were certain things that he was assuming that somebody would know that me, not knowing his industry, I didn't know. So when I interrupted him, I would ask him, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? He said, damn, you know what? I didn't think about that. He just made these assumptions because he knows his thing so well that he would just assume that somebody knew it, or he was unconsciously thinking, all right, I don't need to go over that part. But as I went through it, he understood that he needed to be really a lot more detailed and a lot more intentional about laying out his process. And now, the last I spoke to him a week later when we had a training call for Bulletproof Mastermind, he said, Dre, I've been writing out my process and I got 7 pages of writing out my entire process. And even within that 7 pages, there are still sub processes within each process that I need to go into detail on as well. But he's committed to doing this because he's committed to removing himself as a bottleneck in his process for his business. And this is the kind of things that we all need to do. And it might not be a 7-page document like his is, but you need to know exactly how you produce certain results. When you have created success, you need to know how you did it so that you can do it over and over again. Don't you want to repeat your success? All right, who here has tasted success and they don't want to do it again? Anybody here just want to do success one time and you don't want to do it over again? Successful people are able to repeat. They're able to duplicate their success. If you can't duplicate your success, then again, you might be able to be a one success wonder or a one hit wonder when it comes to success, but you want to do it over and over and over again. Can you repeat your successes? Because you can get lucky one time. I told you this in episode 280. Lames get lucky. When you're real, you can do it again. That was episode 280. Getting lucky is creating success one time, but not knowing how you did it, then you can't do it again. Anyone who's ever read a book, you ever heard a speaker give a speech, you ever been coached, or you ever came across any type of expert, what are they doing? When they share their knowledge with multiple people who they don't know personally, what are they doing? They're sharing a duplicatable process. Stuff that I share with you on the show, these are duplicatable ideas. These principles are applicable to any industry. You could be a basketball player, a financial advisor, a maintenance worker, a college professor, a student. You can use any of these principles that I'm sharing with you here. I don't have to know you personally to know that they will apply to you, because that's what someone who really knows their stuff can do. They can share information with a wide group of people and anyone can use it and get a result. Point number 4, today's topic once again is how to measure consistency. You must be producing predictable results. If you are not producing predictable results, you are not consistent. You know you're consistent when you're producing predictable results. So we just flip that around. The last way to measure your consistency is to look at the outcomes of your efforts. Here's the question for you. For any of you who's still not sure if you're consistent or not, can you predict and then achieve the expected results? I ask the question again. Can you predict and then achieve an expected result? You say, all right, I'm going to produce this result. Here's how I'm going to do it. And then you go out and you actually do it. When you're doing this, then there is some form of consistency that is happening, whether you are aware of it or not. If you're producing a result over and over again, there's some consistency happening somewhere in that process. This is what the third day is about. When I tell you that being a professional is about showing up and delivering and producing the result over and over again, even when you least feel like showing up to work, the consistency is based in your mentality and your approach and the way that you show up. In other words, who you are being. Then you do the thing and then you produce the predictable result. Notice the result is the last step in the process, but there is a process. Some of you are inconsistent in the things that you're inconsistent in things that you actually don't want, because consistency works both ways. I told you humans are creatures of habit. Habit does not necessarily mean habits that you want. It can be habits that you don't want. For example, some of you are consistent at eating food that you shouldn't be eating, sleeping past your alarm clock going off. You're consistent at not going to the gym. You're consistent at second guessing yourself, questioning yourself, or doubting yourself. All of these things that I'm talking about, these are all predictable results. They lead to predictable results, just results that you don't want. All right, you being overweight is a result that you don't want, but your habits are leading to it. Your duplicatable processes are leading to these predictable results of you not having the body that you want because of your habits. Again, habits work in every direction, folks. Habits do not have feelings. Habits are impartial. All right, they don't care which way they're taking you, they will take you there. And you will get there through habits, guaranteed. Because as I told you, it's part of your nature to work off habit. So either they're taking you where you want to go or they're taking you where you don't want to go. But remember, everybody, there is no neutral in the universe. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. Consistency works in every direction. So I would suggest, knowing this, that you start using consistency, habits, processes, routines, systems intentionally and not allowing them to use you without your informed consent and permission. All this said, let's recap today's class, which is how to measure your consistency. Again, shout out to Raquel, who texted me and asked me, Dre, how do you do this? And I didn't have an episode on it, so here it is. Point number one, clear systems and the results produced by those systems. Do you have a clear system in place that is designed to produce a specific result? See episode 1569, episode 1838 on systems. Number two, consistent inputs. The same things, same way, every time. If you ever hear somebody talk about a routine, any kind of routine, business routine, exercise routine, morning routine, they are talking about consistent inputs, doing the same things the same way every time. You can measure your consistency by asking yourself how often you are doing that. If you don't have a system in place, go read my book, The Third Day, then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, join one of my coaching programs. I will help you get consistent at what you're doing, put a system in place that you can and will easily follow. And number three, duplicatable processes. This goes right in hand with the systems point. When you have a duplicatable process, it's because you want to duplicate the process because it's helping you get something that you actually want. If it's helping you get something that you don't want, stop doing it. All right. Can you explain your system in such a way that a fifth grader can understand it, that a caveman can do it? This is what an author, a speaker, a coach, or any expert is doing when they share their knowledge with multiple people that they don't even personally know. They're sharing a duplicatable process because the principles apply across the board. Number four, predictable results. The last way to measure your consistency is to look at the outcomes of your efforts. Can you produce and then achieve an expected result? When you are doing this, there is some form of consistency that is happening, whether you're aware of it or not. But understanding consistency and habits, they work in all directions, even negatively. So if not being in shape or not making the money you want to make or not having the right relationships or not being happy with yourself, if that's happening over and over again in your life, there is a habit that is fueling that result. So understand that habits work in all directions. They do not care if they're making you better or making you worse, but you should care if you're making yourself better and worse based on your actions. So I suggest you start using these consistency ideas intentionally and purposefully and not allowing them to use you without your informed consent and written signed permission. All that said, start by getting my daily motivation text by texting me on my number, 305-384-6894. Once you text me there, you'll get daily motivation every day. The next thing you need to do, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now. My group coaching program is the Bulletproof Mastermind. We have trainings every single week where I'm on there. All our members are on there. I do a live training. I answer all questions. We will get your systems in place so you have a system. You have system-based, not only your business, but your life, that produces actual clear results. Within 30 days, I guarantee you will have that result. And my one-on-one coaching program, which is my 3rd day mastermind, for those of you who want one-on-one attention, not being part of a group, is up to you. But either way, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and get your education because we're giving out that game every single day. Work on your game. Dre all day.